How y'all doing? I'm Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. With me, as always, is my co-host, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crum. Mike, how are you?
Doing well, my friend. I'm pretty low energy today.
That is 100% false, Mike. Your enthusiasm is contagious already, right off camera. I'm excited for the show tonight.
I'm ready to go. Watching the national title game out of one corner of my eye just to keep an eye on the score and ready to talk some, more importantly, Cowboys football.
Absolutely. Well, I saw the score last, Mike. It was 17-10. Is that still the score?
13-20, Michigan.
Okay.
So still a one-score game. I have people on both sides. I probably would say I'm pulling Michigan for a couple of my old friends, but I also for Camber. Obviously, she's there. You know, it would suck for her to have to lose.
Absolutely. What up, Jordan, man? One of our day ones. Jordan, appreciate you tuning in as always. Mike, before we get into our discussion, where can we find you on Twitter, sir?
At CD Piglet, guys. Nice and easy.
Of course, no show is complete without the president of the Jake Ferguson fan club, Mr. Brenden Fergy Smith joins us. Brenden, how are you?
I'm doing great. I think we need to start a little hashtag to get Paul to play Clash of Clans. After this, we can make a podcast clan. Think about it.
Oh my! Hey, that would be fun. I don't know where I'd have the time to do that, to be totally honest with you, Brenden. But that would be fun, man. We should all. I was thinking, man. Actually, Prescott kind of gave me this idea, but I was thinking we should do next season during the football season, do like a inaugural fantasy football league with the three of us, and then like the day one homies who listen to the podcast and support, and we can give away some like maybe a signed autographed jersey or football or helmet or something, to show some love and just to kind of,
that'd be hype.
That'd be super cool with the fans.
Dude, so much shit talk would happen on this podcast.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. Brenden, where can we find you on X, aka Twitter, sir?
At Brenden_Smith 26.
A shout out to our guy Butter Stotts, our homie Prescott in the chat. Prescott, how are you, sir? Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. Well, as always, I'm excited for our discussion tonight. But before we talk anything football related, we must discuss one thing and one thing only. Of course, I'm referring to my personal favorite segment, Meatless Monday. Mike, what was on the menu today?
Today was good. I did some fusilli pasta with black truffle marinara and sauteed mushrooms and some Parmesan cheese. Oh my God. And then my dog got on the counter and grabbed my wedge of Parmesan cheese and ate it. And I had a wedge like this much, like almost $20 worth of really good Parmesan cheese. And I want to murder my dog. I love my dog, but oh my God, I was so furious. I have 5 of them, but I know which one did it, even though I didn't see them.
Man, Mike with the black truffles and the fresh Parmesan, that Cowboys wire money hits different, sir.
Yep, that Cowboys, that's what it is, definitely.
Yeah, man, that sounds delicious, dude. I've been on a bit of a pasta kick lately. I haven't made anything that good, but yeah, that sounds really good, man, especially for being vegetarian.
Yeah, it was nice. I have so much stuff upcoming with like some bulgogi stuff. I have tacos. I have a lamb stew coming up. So
oh wow,
I had to push everything back because it was Meatless Monday, but I snuck a good dinner in today.
Sounds delicious. Well, before we go on a food rant, let's go ahead and move on. And here we are with back-to-back victory Mondays, thanks to Dak Prescott leading the Dallas Cowboys to a dominant 38-10 victory over the Washington Commanders. With the regular season coming to an end, the Dallas Cowboys won 12 games for the third year in a row, earned the number 2 seed in the NFC, and are the NFC East division champions. But Brenden, I'm curious, did we learn anything from beating a lot of the Commanders' backups this week, or last week rather?
I would say yes, you did, because we were in the same situation last year, and you dropped the ball so hard against the Commanders, and you looked awful leaving that game. You felt awful. Like, well, of course, we'll get into the more like the players who played well in this game, but the energy was just different. Like, we played better away. We played better with I know the weather wasn't crazy, but we played better with it being colder, the wind being a little bit crazier out there. It was just an all-around way better win than we're ever used to seeing at the end of the season.
Yeah, a lot different this year. We're actually playing for something as opposed to last year when we just kind of slept through that game. I mean, Mike pointed out that Washington players were like, these guys weren't even trying. Mike, what did you learn about this team in this week?
The main thing I came away with from this week is that TJ Bass, the player, that guy is a player. He's going to be in the conversation about the best starting five next year. You could just see it. You could see him move people as a rookie, and that is very hard to do when you don't have a day in the what's up, Prescott? When you don't have a season in the weight room yet, and you're moving guys already, and you could take on a Daron Payne. So nothing against Hoffman. He played a very good game, but it's different because we've seen Bass a few times, and it's a continuation from what we saw in the preseason to when he got snaps earlier, and now he's starting a full game. Yeah, I think TJ Bass is going to be in talks of the best five next season.
Yeah, I like hearing that, man. Off the top of your head, Mike, do you remember what round we took TJ Bass in?
Undrafted free agent.
Oh, Lord.
Which the fact that I had a fifth-round grade on him, I don't know how he went. I don't know if there was a medical or something. I'll have to go back and look. But I'm pretty sure I had a end of day 4, early day 5 grade. And, man, getting him as an undrafted free agent was – that's the rich getting richer right there as far as Will McClay and the way he does that draft stuff.
Absolutely. We know that we were playing for something yesterday, of course, playing for that number 2 seed and playing for the NFC East division title. But how important, Mike, was it for this team to finish the season like that heading into the playoffs?
I think it was huge. So say we played this game at Washington and we came out and win or lose, we struggled, right? Like you could tell, like, damn, it was not a great performance. If you win, you still have the thoughts of damn, we struggled. We struggled really the last 4 games. We continued our struggles on the road. We couldn't get that going. Our run game wasn't good. And that would still be tough. Then imagine you lost. Tampa Bay's, I think, 4-1 in their last 5 games. You'd be going to Tampa. Philly lost, so you still would have been the 3 seed, but you'd have played the Rams, which was not going to be fun. It would have just been a different feel coming out. So, I'm glad they played well and they showed that they could play well on the road, and now they're kind of like in a rhythm going into the playoffs at home, and it's time to start a run, hopefully.
Yeah, we were talking pre-roll about, Miami and Buffalo, and Miami's kicking themselves for not winning that game last night as they head to KC to face a tough, veteran squad that's been there and done that a couple of times. So, yeah, definitely, this is definitely a much better feel how the Cowboys performed and were able to get that 2 seed and lock that up and lock home field advantage. Brenden, you look at Dak's performance yesterday, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, only 5 incompletions. Well, was yesterday's performance good enough for Dak to steal the MVP from Lamar?
I think it should, because, dude, the throws he makes, of course, the interception was tipped. Even like Greg Olsen I've not been a fan of, but even he was like, hey, that interception's not on him. Even he pointed that out, which no commentator or any analyst would say that. But he dominated, man. He threw the ball perfectly. The Lamb was always there. Lamb was always open. He found Fergie. Cooks is I love Brandon Cooks. I knew I was going to love him, but he's just so great when his number gets called. I think it should, but they love Lamar so much. Rightfully so. Lamar is a phenomenal player, but Dak should win it.
Absolutely.
He has the numbers.
What's you, Mike? What do you think?
He has. I just here's a drop for you guys. I'll have an article coming out hopefully tomorrow. It'll come out that quick. But at Wednesday at the latest, it should be there. It's kind of going through Dak as an all-pro candidate because I kind of know how the narratives go. Lamar's had a great year. He's big time to their passing and their running attack. He's the most important player on the team with the best record. and he won, blowouts against San Francisco and Miami at the end. So I kind of know how a narrative and a storyline builds, and he's going to win the award. Going through this, and I said that on Twitter, already. I was like, yeah, he's going to win the award, Dak. As long as he's an All-Pro, I'm good. Going through the stats, though, like, Dak did have a better year playing quarterback than he did. Now, that doesn't always win you the MVP, but he did have it. Like, I would not be shocked in the least if Lamar won the MVP and Dak Prescott was first-team All-Pro with Lamar as second-team All-Pro, because the narratives and the type of games you win matter in the MVP, whereas All-Pro is more about, like, how you played the position. And Dak's numbers are, like, better across the board. Even when you add rushing, he has better total yards, better total touchdowns. He's miles ahead of him in PAA, which is points allowed over average. So, like, if you take the average quarterback and you put him in, how many more points did this specific quarterback get you in their system with their talent around them? Dak led the league with like 57, and the next highest person was Josh Allen. He was like 41 or something. Like, Dak was just miles ahead. So, the numbers, Dak definitely had an MVP year. He's not going to win it, but he had the numbers to be an MVP and an All-Pro.
Yeah, Dak definitely deserves it, man. And, I'd like to do a little research on it, because there was a stretch where Baltimore went on a winning streak, but Lamar was just not playing very well, whereas Dak was on like a heater, but they didn't win those games. But it wasn't because of Dak. It was more so because the defense couldn't make a play, or, things like that. So it's interesting how those things get voted on, man. But, we'll go off the show sheet here. Just, I'm curious. But, Brenden, when you think about the MVP award, it's usually obviously decided after the regular season, but should it be changed to after the playoffs?
Well, I would say no, only because all the awards are regular season awards.
Yeah.
So unless you want to push them all back, but I got a couple things.
I wouldn't be against that.
But no, if Dak wins, if he does, like, anything can happen. But they're like, oh, it's like it's like when Matt Ryan won, because now no one talks about it and all that. They're going to bring that up. But also, if Dak wins, and Dallas is, I'm going to speak into Dallas won't lose anything terrible, and we're going to go for a ride here. But if we lose the divisional round, like, wow, y'all had the MVP and you still lost, and all that. And also, we win 4 to 6 games this year if he gets hurt or just doesn't play. I don't want to see half these games without Dak here. It was terrifying.
Right. I agree. Let's see what our guy voters here. You also have to remember that oftentimes with the MVP voters, they tend to lean towards people who might have been close to MVP awards prior but haven't won as of yet.
Or ones that have won, where they're like, oh yeah, we know this guy. He's been an MVP before, yada, yada, yada.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was won that thing 4 times, so.
Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty crazy. Mike, if Dak doesn't win MVP, who is more deserving of the Offensive Player of the Year, Dak or CeeDee Lamb?
All right, I'm going to flip it up on you guys, and I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb here. I don't think either of them win Offensive Player of the Year. I think that's Christian McCaffrey, and rightfully so. That guy had 2,000 yards combined and scored a touchdown basically every game and was ridiculous. But I would go Lamb over Dak, because Lamb did some stuff that was more like history making. Like, he broke he led the league in receptions, broke a Cowboys record. He broke the Cowboys record for yards. He had 14 total touchdowns, 12, I believe, receiving, 2 rushing. Like, he really put an amazing year together. He'll be a first-team All-Pro guaranteed, him and Tyreek Hill. You might as well lock that up right now.
Right.
But I would say, for me, the Offensive Player of the Year would go Christian McCaffrey. Very, very, very close between Hill and Lamb, but I would put Hill a little bit more. He had 1 more touchdown, and he had more yards per reception. So, Lamb would be third, but who'd have thought going into this year that we would add CeeDee Lamb as the 3rd highest? Who'd have thought after the San Francisco game, but 5 weeks into the year, that
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb would be third highest on Offensive Player of the Year. Like, I think that's going to be how the vote goes. It's going to be CMC, Hill, Lamb. I think that'll be the top three guys.
And you think about it, like those first 5 weeks, it's not like Lamb was getting 10 to 12 targets every game. He was kind of having like an okay season. And for him to be in this conversation is pretty crazy. I mean, if he were to average 10 targets a game for an entire year, like the numbers that he put up would be ridiculous.
He might
What do you think, Brenden?
2,000. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
seriously. No. But who do you think would win Offensive Player of the Year, Dak or CeeDee?
Oh, it would be CeeDee because it's kind of like we always say MVP is a quarterback award. Offensive Player of the Year is always a skill position award. Unless a quarterback absolutely gets snubbed, it's always a skill position. What CeeDee Lamb could have done, he could have locked it up if we threw him the ball against Miami. If we just gave him the ball more against Miami, dude, he would have it. He would have at least 1,800 yards. Dude, like, this wouldn't even be a conversation. That makes me want to throw up, but of course it's a contract year. CeeDee Lamb decides, like, oh, yeah, hey, I was already good before. I'm dominant. But it's easily CeeDee.
I wasn't really sure how much.
If we won that Miami game, you might be talking about the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year on the same team.
Yeah.
Game.
I wasn't really sure how good CeeDee Lamb would be after last year, but to see him take it to this level has been insane, dude.
Give props to McCarthy, man. I mean, that's the main thing that changed between they have the same quarterback, same wide receiver, different play caller, and he developed those guys to take another leap. Yeah,
facts. Brenden, looking at the Defensive Player of the Year, I mean, of course, Micah Parsons and Ron Bland are both deserving, but of the two, who do you think is the most deserving?
I don't think anyone cares about DBs for Defensive Player of the Year. I fully don't believe they're like, oh, okay, cool, you got interceptions, that's whatever. So what did you do against the quarterback? It's Micah. It's Deron Bland had an awesome season. Like, this was so much fun to see. You see Diggs go down and like, oh no, we're gonna get no turnovers now. This is the end of our defense, and he came to play. It was great. But Micah's being triple teamed left and right, being choked as he's trying to go after the quarterback, and he still gets sacks. It's gotta be Micah. He's so dominant, even whenever he gets held by 15 people.
Most pressures in the NFL. Mike, what about you? Is it Bland or Micah for Defensive Player of the Year in your eyes?
It's funny because I believe that if they did Defensive Player of the Year as like the MVP, and then they had an Offensive Player of the Year award for defense, I think it would be Micah would be the MVP because of all the attention he draws. 3 people, like Brenden said, led the league in pressures, like you said. And then Deron Bland would be the Offensive Player of the Year for defense because he friggin' put up a record 5 interception returns for a touchdown. He led the league in interceptions. He was top 5 in like passer rating allowed when he was thrown at. He had 12 pass defense deflections. Yeah. Like he killed, but I mean, it's Micah. Micah just does too much for the defense. Like, he does too much for everyone else because of the attention he gets. And so, it would be Micah. And it's going to be between him and Garrett, honestly. Him and Myles Garrett are going to be the 2.
And it's been how many weeks since Micah Parsons has had a holding call go his way, and he still leads the league in pressures? The Chargers game.
Dude, imagine if he doesn't get triple teamed. Yeah. He would have the record.
Insane.
He would have the record.
Week 6 was the last time he got a holding call. It's malpractice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's getting that tank treatment, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, Mike, what side of the ball do you believe deserves more credit for another 12-5 season, the offense or the defense?
Dak is why. Dak by far deserves the most credit. So you put it on the offense.
Yeah.
You could go through the Seattle game, the Miami game, even I'm blanking on the Detroit where we almost lost.
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty of times where the defense gave stuff away. The Cardinals game, they weren't great. Niners and Buffalo were equally bad for both sides. But it's Dak. You gotta give him that props.
Pretty easily for me as well. How about you, Brenden?
Oh, yeah, it's easily offense. I pointed this because, our defense have been good. If you say anything before San Fran, besides the Arizona game, you maybe say oh, the defense, they were playing. Dude, that switch that happened with Dak and CeeDee changed everything. And then we got Brandon Cooks involved, and you got Fergie more involved. And then Tony Pollard's finally doing something down the stretch. Like, it's the offense easily.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
Man.
I think Diggs leaving was when the transition began to happen. After losing Diggs, it became, instead of them being dominant, where they could just dominate a team, they ended up to where they're still a good defense, but with Diggs not being out and then LVE as well, they weren't going to dominate. They were going to have to play a certain way to be good enough.
Absolutely. Prescott here with, man, that's pretty crazy. If you look at CeeDee's stats after the San Francisco game, the pace that he produced in the 12 games thereafter would have gotten him a 2,000-yard season.
Well, actually, there's an easy set to say the offense. We averaged 40 points at home. How are you going to lose if you average 40 at home?
I think I saw a stat that with Dak Prescott healthy, I think it was in the McCarthy era with Dak Prescott healthy, we averaged like 31 points a game with him playing. That is, but I mean, he's Kirk Cousins,
Yeah, he's a waste of a contract. Come on, guys.
Crazy. You look at this Dallas core, man, on offense. Of course, you've got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Tony Pollard, and Brandon Cooks. That's a nice young core to build around. And then, of course, you look at all the players that we have on defense, the young core there, and just the superstar that is Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons, and now DaRon Bland. But looking at that, would most coaches and coordinators have the same success with this team, or do you feel that McCarthy and Dan Quinn give Dallas an advantage week to week, Mike?
I gotta give the credit to McCarthy and Quinn, and the reason you do it is because look at Moore the year before. Look at Moore going to get Justin Herbert, who's probably a more talented quarterback than Dak Prescott, and Herbert has less of a year. McCarthy takes over, and CeeDee Lamb and Dak take a step up. So I got to give him credit there. And then you look on the Quinn side. Losing your top, shutdown, lockdown, superstar corner, your best run-stopping, big middle linebacker, and then even Hankins for a time was your second best run defender on the line. There's go through the teams. How many teams could last losing that? There would be no way. And he just, they went from being top 5 dominant with Niners and Baltimore and them to losing Diggs and okay, we can hover around one of the top defenses in the top 10 area. Then you lose LVE and it's okay, top 10 is going to be tough. We're going to have games where we're going to struggle. Then you lose Hankins too. And it's at some point the injury should catch up with you, but Quinn moves a safety here and puts this guy over here, and this guy shifts to this job some plays, and he makes it work. And so, you got to give him credit.
I remember the dark times when if Sean Lee or Tyron Smith were to go down, the season was over.
Not a quarterback, a linebacker or a left tackle. It was over.
Seriously ridiculous, dude. Yeah. Well, Brenda, what about you? Do you have anything to add to the McCarthy and Quinn? Do you feel like they give you an advantage week to week?
I've given them praise. I've also, I've talked some trash about them. But Mike has it correct. Also, you guys say we lead the league in turnovers since Dan Quinn has been here. I'll give Mike McCarthy a lot of crap. I will, and I'll continue to do it because there's some things. But he listens to his players. That is the biggest thing. Kellen Moore. I can go on and on about how awful he is, but he's this is my scheme. You're gonna run it. I don't care who you are or what we do. I'm not going to force the ball to anybody. This is what we're going to run. You needed Cooks more involved. Got Cooks more involved. CeeDee Lamb said, hey, I need the ball. Bet. We'll throw you the ball. We've seen how that turned out. You got Jake Ferguson in the screen game, or you're just seam route that works perfectly with Dak. It's just he listens, which is honestly it's kind of crazy.
It almost kind of feels like McCarthy listens on Twitter too, or pays attention to Twitter because Massey, I believe it was Massey yesterday, was saying that just because of Zach Martin and Tyler Smith were going to be out, don't change your game plan. And what do Cowboys do? They go out and stuck to the script, and we saw the performance that they had. So it was nice to see that for sure. But yeah, I'd have to agree, man. I mean, Mike, you kind of reminded me of how good Quinn is, and then to suffer all the lost players, the impact players that he's had, and to still have the season that this defense has had is nothing short of impressive. And Brenden, like you, man, we've praised McCarthy, and then we've had lots of questions about him, man. So it's an up and down season, but yeah, these guys we're lucky to have this coaching staff. There's no doubt about that.
It could be a lot worse.
Absolutely. Mike, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in this coaching staff heading into the playoffs?
8.5 versus anybody not San Francisco.
That's fair.
I'm pretty happy with them, minus if they have to go to San Francisco.
Oh, that includes Baltimore too, right?
Yeah. I haven't seen them yet. They beat up on other teams. I don't know if they could do that to our offense. We'd have to see.
True. Brenden, how about you? How confident are you in this coaching staff? 1 to 10.
7. Like, we're at home, which people are debating all that. I don't care. I feel more confident now that we're at home. But still a little wiggle room. Like, I can see things going really well, and we're like, dude, this team's the dominant team that we've been waiting for. But I can also see us like, oh, it's that again. Okay. So, but I feel a lot more confident now that we're at home with the 2 seed.
Yeah, 7's a good number, and 8.5. That actually seems pretty fair too. I'll go right in the middle. I'll say 7.5. We just Mike McCarthy does some head scratching things, and sometimes you ask yourself, what is Dan Quinn doing against this offense? But yeah, I'm pretty confident in these guys, man. They've been here before. You got I've kind of been asking myself the last couple of weeks, like, are we hiding things, just not wanting to show film for teams in the playoffs? Maybe we're holding some things back, and that's why we're not finishing games the way that we should be. So it'll be interesting to see, man. We've got a fun matchup to discuss here in a couple of days against the Green Bay Packers, but we won't get into that now.
7.75 would be in the middle, though. Just saying.
7.75. Thank you, Officer Petty. I appreciate that. Brenden, who's your player of the game?
I want to give credit. There's a lot of players who can be player spotlights, but just because Mike gave me so much crap last week, it's Dak Prescott. Dude, 4 touchdowns. He didn't have to play it for most of the fourth quarter. Dude, his throws are insane. Pocket aware. Dude, that touchdown to Tolbert, nutty. Like, it was just great.
Yeah, I mean, that freaking touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, dude, was insane. Where he was able to fit that in, that window that he was able to fit that in, was crazy. Mike, how about you? Who's your player of the game?
The dime to Cooks too, like all of them. Now I won't give you crap this week because it wasn't like somebody setting records or anything. I did Lamb again. Prescott totally makes sense. Either of those two completely makes sense. So I went Lamb. He caught every pass he was thrown. Caught another 13 passes. Like 7.75 is in the middle. I knew I'd get shit for that, so I did it.
Yeah, it's Dak MVP Prescott pretty easy for me as player of the game this week. I won't. I'm not going to let Mike poop on me again this week as well, like he did both Brenden and I last week.
No, you guys did good this time. We didn't do all player spotlights.
All right, player spotlight. Mike, who you got?
I don't remember who. Cooks. He just seems to, like when you leave the game, I think he had like 5 catches, 39 yards, like nothing like crazy, but
I believe it was like 8 for 36.
Oh, was it? Damn, he had 8 catches
like
for real?
It was either 6 receptions for 36 yards and like 8 targets, I believe is what it is, actually.
Okay, 6 receptions. All right, I was 1 off. Damn, if I was 3 off, I was gonna be like, shoot, kill me. But yeah, like if you look at it, you're like, but then you look at the games and it's like, oh, one of them was a touchdown pass. And then no, Prescott. One of them was a touchdown pass, and one of them was for a first down, and the other one was a big, 2nd and long that he got it down to 3rd and 2. Like he makes that, how much attention is going to go on Ferguson for the big play up the seam, and how much attention is going to go to Lamb. And just getting that guy that I don't want to crap on him anymore. I'm actually very proud of what he's done at Houston this year with Stroud. But Noah Brown's not getting open the way a Brandon Cooks is getting open. Even a T.Y. Hilton at his 8 is not getting open like a Brandon Cooks is going to get open in those situations. And you see it over and over again. He's like the you know how you get the 6'5" receiver that you just throw the fade to when you get to the red zone? He's like the little guy version of that. He finds a way to get through the little stuff, the picks and everything. In the corner of the opposite side of the field, you float him a little ball and he comes loose and, I got it for a touchdown. He's awesome, man. Definitely deserves a spotlight.
Dude, his touchdown catch against the Lions, man, that game winner was ridiculous. How he went up and got that. I love the TD catch by Jalen Tolbert though yesterday, man. That was nasty just to go over that guy and bring it down. That was beautiful. Brenden, who's your spotlight guy?
So today I got two. I want to say this real quick. Anytime Fergie caught the ball, it was a first down. I tweeted about that. I had to say that on the podcast because I love him. I know y'all know this. He's so clutch, dude. Anytime he's so athletic, he just gets around. I'm like, okay, that's a first. Cool.
Hey, I seen a person put on Twitter like, man, doesn't Dallas wish they had Dalton Schultz back?
I saw that.
And I'm like, bro, all you have to do is watch this last game where the guy catches everything at like 6 yards and it ends up being a 13-yard gain. And I'm like, that's the difference. Yeah, on second and 11, or something crazy like that, Fergie takes a 6-yard pass and makes it a first down. Dalton Schultz is 3rd and 5.
He falls down. Yeah. No, yeah. My main one, just because I always like giving people credit after I bash him the week before. Tony Pollard actually had a pretty, that was the most angry I've ever seen Tony Pollard. He had 19 touches for 86 yards and a really mean touchdown. He went from doing nothing against Detroit, and I mean nothing. I know it was against worse competition, but he was angry running. There's a difference between him just finding a crease that's another 5 yards to him lowering the shoulder and getting it. Also, that catch that he had near the red zone, he drops that 9 out of 10 times this year. Easy drop. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's an interception right there. I'll just yank it from Pollard, but he got it. It was a great showing.
Yeah. It felt like Hoffman's got that attitude. He's one of those dudes, and he felt like it filled Pollard with that attitude.
Yeah. So my player spotlight, man, I got to go with Donovan Wilson. Back-to-back games with interceptions, and he's starting to look like he might be 100% healthy for the first time and at the perfect time this season. Man, he brings so much to the defense, man. Just his energy, his playmaking ability. I love what I've seen from him the last couple of weeks.
Jordan Lewis also has two turnovers in the past 2 weeks.
Those two coming off of big injuries, one last year and one to start training camp. If they're rounding into form, it makes people don't understand the difference it makes if you have a Donovan Wilson playing like he did last year, and Jordan Lewis just being Jordan. Jordan Lewis is never going to be great. You don't need him to be great. He just needs to make some plays, and he's doing that right now.
Hell of a third-round pick Jordan Lewis has been, man.
Just imagine if he didn't get stuck with. I love Chris Richard. I thought he did a lot with a little, but if he didn't get stuck with that height thing where they just wouldn't play him, he was better than a lot of guys they were playing ahead of him. Yeah,
for sure. All right, Mike, here we are with the views from the sidelines, and we've got a little bit of a long one here. It's about like a 3-parter, but let's start off with number one. Did TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman exceed your expectations, or did they underachieve?
I mean, you guys could say it with me. You watch the games. 1, 2, 3. Exceeded.
Yeah.
Extremely. Beyond exceeded. And I went into the game going, I'm good with Bass. I know he's a good backup. And I left it going, he's going to start next year. They're going to do something to where he's starting. And then Hoffman, I feel like, is now the going into next year is the Joe Looney. If you get an injury at center or either guard spot, we're good, man. No worries. We got Hoffman. He'll be good for a few games, and we'll be fine. So yeah, I loved that. They killed in that game. And well, I'll let you get to the next question.
Such a beautiful thing though to have those guys to where like during the draft you don't feel like you're forced to take a lineman, dude. You know what I mean?
We need the tackle. Michigan just scored to go up 2 touchdowns. We need a tackle still until we hear something about you can't trust Walesko. So he's, even if he does well, injury-wise, he's got to be out of your mind, really, unfortunately. But Asim Richards, unless we see him take some kind of jump off season, we hear something about that, I think tackle still has to be a top 100 issue next year.
Yeah, and plus not knowing what's going to happen with Tyron. But realistically, though, I mean, I guess you could see it, like I said, if we do say, if Tyron does decide to hang it up, I mean, you could have Tyler, Bass, Hoffman, Martin, and Steele.
I talked about that on Twitter yesterday. Would they do that? And most people are like, we'd rather bring back Tyron, and I agree with them because I want Hoffman to be the backup that rotates. Mm-hmm. I'd like TJ Bass to take snaps all year at center. I know he started this year doing that. Work with Dak all offseason. Every snap Dak wants, you give him the snap. And go into next year with Tyron, Tyler, Bass, Martin, Steele, and then draft a tackle in the top 50. That, or if you have a second round that's like, 64th, then do that.
I got you. Our guy Prescott has a question for you, Mike. Knowing line play like you do, Mike, was Bass really that impressive?
Bass's starter level guard. You can see, here's the thing. You have to remember, he's a rookie playing at a higher level than you expect an undrafted free agent rookie to play. He's playing good enough to be a backup. So when I say, he's good enough to be a starter, it's like how Sam Williams was last year. In limited roles, you saw 10 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, and you thought, this guy's going to develop into the tank replacement. Now, this year comes around, he doesn't look like he's developing like that. Still looks fine, but if you had him next year going and replacing Tank, you would be in trouble. That would be a problem. So he still has to develop. But what I'm saying is, from what you've seen, what you know about this Cowboys development of linemen and how they work in the offseason, look at the leap Steele made from year 1 to year 2. Look at the leap Biotish has made from his first healthy year to an offseason where he was healthy. You can see that there's no reason Bass shouldn't be a above average quality starter next year on our line. And that is something to find in an undrafted free agent.
Love to hear that. All right, Mike, number 2, can you considering the competition?
Daron Payne played, and he lined up over Bass often, and Bass held his own. And that's all I need to know about him, because Daron Payne will push around Zach Martin once in a while. I mean, he's that good. And he did push around Bass once in a while. Like I said, we're there's different levels here, but you could tell that he's going to be a player, man. You could see it.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but Bass looked pretty good even playing when he was playing in the Miami game.
Yeah, oh yeah. He and in preseason, there's no time where you left watching Bass and thought he ain't got it. From the minute he got here, you said that's a quality backup. He's going to make the team as an undrafted free agent. Watch Lombardi, everybody will tell you that. Jeff Kavanaugh, everybody that watched him was like, that guy's going to make it. Broadus was calling him our 6th best lineman from before we started preseason games. Yeah. And then in preseason, he did well. And then in games, he's done well. And now he's gotten better as the year's gone. Like, you could see it. He's going to be a guy.
Man, having a player, an offensive lineman at that position, dude, as an undrafted free agent is such an advantage when it comes to draft time. All right, number 3, Mike. Patrick No-See Walker thinks Dallas has the best backups in the league. What are your thoughts on that? And are either future starters in your eyes? Of course, you've answered that question, but what are your thoughts on No-See Walker saying that?
I'd like Hoffman another year as a reserve, be the interior guy. Bass is a starter. I would say, since the Philly right guard has played really, really poorly, that probably puts a damper on them. We might have the best backups. Now, I'd like to see a little more of Detroit's. Detroit's got some good guys too. But we're definitely in the discussion.
All right. Well, here we are with our newest segment, Brendan's Bashing. All right, Brendan, who had a bad, awful, or terrible game and needs to be sent to the Dallas Renegades? Prescott sent me his player. Let me share that with you real quick.
What? Oh, I get
He's
it.
troll. Yeah. You're
got
funny.
me.
You're
You
funny,
got
man.
me.
First off, I love having this as a segment. I do, but when you win by 28, I can't. There's no like Terrence Steele. If anyone deserves it, I guess Terrence Steele in the first quarter because he looked like he was a little lost. But you win by 28, dude. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I got no complaints.
I meant to add you can pick a Dallas player or a Washington Commanders player because, of course, like you said, when you win by 28 points, you can't. It's hard to find fault in any of the players playing in that game. So yeah, I'm there with you on that.
Hey, McLaurin didn't get his 1,000 yards either, huh?
Yeah, he did. At the end of the game.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh,
He got a couple plays and he got a first down or whatever, and he got it.
Good. I'm glad, but man, he
wanted that deep ball. Deron Bland said no, and I loved it.
Yeah, that was nice of him to go up. Even with a huge lead, he went up and fought for that ball and got the interception. Love to see it. All right, here, true or false? This season is the Cowboys' chance to win a Super Bowl. Brenden.
It's true. Like we've gone on because the thing is we're critical. Like that's what we kind of have to be. You can't be like, oh wow, we won 12 games, we're super great. No, there's gonna be problems. But you kidding me? You got your quarterback playing the best we've ever seen. You got your wide receivers playing the best any wide receiver in Cowboys history has played. Like your defense makes stops wherever they need to for the most part. And of course, even I'm terrified that our kicker will turn into Maher, with getting in his head. But you have the most accurate kicker in the league. Like everything's just culminating, and you won in Week 18. That doesn't happen. Dallas crumbles because we don't care. We're in the playoffs. It's whatever. We won in embarrassing fashion from the Commanders. Sorry.
One thing about Jason, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Brendan, but one thing, Jason Garrett, he always likes to go into the playoffs, still fighting, still going out on a high note, like wanting to win those final games. So that's one good thing I can say about Jason Garrett. But like you said, man, it is nice. Usually we don't win these games. We don't really care. Maybe our fate has been decided, whether it be playoffs or draft capital or whatnot. But yeah, it's nice to see us have a Week 18 performance like this. And Mike, what about you? Is this season the Cowboys' best chance to win a Super Bowl? True or false?
What we're not going to do is bring in Jason Garrett's name when we got the 2 seed for the first time since 1994. Yeah. We got 2 home games. We won 16 straight at home. We ain't bringing in Mr. Clappy 8-8. Okay. So
but I was just making a point that he'd like to finish the season strong, even if it ruined your draft capital.
We got a Super Bowl winning coach, 12-5, 3 straight years. Only Cowboys will never do that. We got 2 straight home games.
Jason Garrett won a Super Bowl.
And then I will be terrified if San Francisco makes it.
Yeah. So okay. Well, so do you think this is Dallas' best chance to win a Super Bowl?
True.
True or false?
True.
We're going to talk about this because I wanted to add it here, but I think it'd be a better discussion on Friday when we do our sneak peek episode. But just for this question, I will say true. I do think this is Dallas. This is the Cowboys' best chance to win a Super Bowl. We've got some players here, but I won't get into it because I want to save it for Friday's pod. All right, one word, Mike. The word that comes to mind when you think about the Cowboys and Packers playing each other is blank.
Vintage. This is old school. Back in the day, they would always beat us. And then when our dynasty came in the 90s, we would always beat them. Then the Aaron Rodgers years came, they would always beat us. And now it's time to flip it back. And I got to read what he says. Hold on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I have a different room, Prescott, where I have my Cowboys jerseys and helmet and everything. This is my room's Disney. I love Dallas. I love nothing more than Disney.
Yes, sir. All right, Brendan, the word that comes to mind when you think about the Cowboys and Packers playing each other is blank.
See, shows my age. This totally shows I said heartbreaking.
Oh, I like
because
that one, man.
I've been crushed every time. I
Yeah.
hate Aaron Rodgers with a passion. I honestly, I wish him and Mason Crosby were there, just so if we do win, I could get that sour taste out of my mouth.
Right.
But it's just, they've destroyed me so many times.
Man, I'm right there with you.
Jared Cook was out of bounds.
We used to own them.
Dude.
That's what's crazy. Ask Broadus talks about it. We could not get past friggin' Dallas. He hated them. And now it flipped. Aaron Rodgers would kill us. Now it's time to reverse it.
I remember when Broadus was talking about the turning point, he said that there was a year during the draft where the Cowboys took a special teams player like really early, maybe like a second round pick. And he's like, okay, I think we got him. Like Dallas had become satisfied and they weren't drafting well. They weren't as hungry as they once were. And Green Bay was like right on the verge of kind of turning the tide. So yeah, man, Broadus does talk about their history quite a bit. It's funny that he's worked with both teams. The word that comes to mind for me, man, when I think about the Cowboys and Packers playing each other is just sister work, man. History, like you said, Brenden. There's a lot of heartbreak. That's really all I've experienced too, man. Since I've been watching football the way that I have, and kind of having a more appreciation and being fond of the game the way that I am today. All I've experienced is heartbreak, man. So it's interesting to see this Packers matchup, man. I'm not scared of the Packers. Again, we'll talk about it on Friday, but this is an interesting matchup for sure. But okay, here, let's move on to the top 5. Now that the regular season is over, we'll talk about our top 5 memories from the Cowboys regular season. Brenden, start us off with your number 5.
I'm happy we don't have Breeze on here. I put Dan Skipper lining up as eligible instead of Decker. Because, dude, the person who runs the media account on Twitter for the Lions is like, we should show highlights of Dan Skipper. I'm like, he reported as eligible. They said on the Megatron, they said on the loudspeaker, number 70 eligible. So you see Dan Skipper lying on the right side, and went to Decker. So cool. You can show me Dan Skipper doing all this shit. He caught a ball the game against Minnesota to end the season because he did it to okay, cool. He landed as eligible. He did that against Dallas. But yeah, keep the same energy.
All right, Mike, number 5 on your list.
Number 5 for me is going to be weird. It's going to sound weird because it's a loss, but it was when we lost to Philly at Philly.
Yeah.
I already had conceded the division when they beat Kansas City, but we went in that game and Dak lit them up, and they got a favorable call or two. I don't blame the refs. We made our own mistakes, but I knew leaving that game they can't hang with us if we play our game. I knew. So I was thinking, okay, we're going to be the lower seed. They're going to win the division. But if we end up getting to them, they can't beat us. They're not going to be able to beat Dak. Their D doesn't have it. Hurts for whatever reason. Their offense hasn't been the same. And our defense is doing a good job against them. And I just thought we got them. And so it was a good memory, even in a loss.
Interesting. Yeah, my number 5 also comes from a loss, and I'm going with the embarrassing loss in San Francisco simply because of how it changed our season and everything that's happened after that, how it affected our season, leading to Mike McCarthy knowing he needed to make a change with the offense and things like that.
Yep.
I
love that.
Number 4 on my list. Number 4 on my list. I'm going to go, this kind of sticking with that same game here, but the way that Dak handled the situation with Lamb, kind of how he was on the sidelines and saying that if Lamb has a problem, he can come talk to me. We can communicate with each other. If he has something to say, he can say it to me. Standing his ground and just, showing his leadership skills, but also doing it in a way where, just showing respect and even Jake Ferguson having his back to his quarterback's back. I mean, I just love how that situation unfolded there.
That loss did a lot to bring us together.
Absolutely. Mike, what's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 on my list was when Cooks went for 173 against the Giants. He hadn't done a lot. And it was one of those situations where it was like, well, is it finally just, all right, Cooks has been great for so long, but, his legs just aren't there. He just doesn't have it. And I kind of realized with that game, oh, no, Cooks got it. So it's just us continuing to implement him, Dak and him getting timing, working more together. And so it was a big moment in the season of going, oh no, Cooks is still Cooks. This is a QB offensive play coordinator chemistry issue, not a player issue. And so that was a big moment. So yeah, it was stuck in there for me.
Yeah, that was a good game, man. Like, love seeing Cooks go up because if not for that game too, man, you got to wonder where Cooks would be. Yeah, mentally, if he would have gotten going, if he would have been locked in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Brenden, number 4 on your list.
It's when we destroyed Philly at home. It just continued their downfall after they got embarrassed by San Fran, utterly just destroyed, and then they come to us like, oh hey, we lost, we're getting this bad taste out of our mouth. Dominance, destruction. Stephon Gilmore had his best game of the season by far, and it was just beautiful seeing all the Eagles fans cry. It was nice.
Absolutely. All right, Brenden, number 3 on your list.
This is when Deron Bland got the record-breaking pick 6. But not for the reason why you're thinking. No, but not for the reason why you're thinking. Because remember earlier in the week, I called it. I'm like, "Hey, he's gonna break it here on Thanksgiving." So we use YouTube TV. We're always like a play behind. And my best friend Cooper spams my phone. You called it. You fucking called it. Holy shit! I'm like, what are you talking about? The play I watched, Deron Bland pick 6. I'm like, you suck. I'm like, I'm watching history, and I'm pissed off because you just spoiled for me 20 seconds before it happened. Like, you are awful.
That's a hard one. Mike, number 3 on your list.
Destroying Philly at home. And the reason is after they lost to San Francisco, typically a thing is good teams that get whooped on the next week, they normally have a bounce back week. But I was still living off that home game where we lost, but I thought, nah, we got them. So for them to come off that Niners game, pumped up, we're going to show everybody this and that, and we just like get back and smack them back again. I think it was the first time they truly had doubt, because you can lose one game like we did, Niners, and it's like oh man, you know what, we had a bad game. But when you get smacked up twice, that's when it's like, damn, are we doing things right? Because we had a good week of practice this week, and they still smacked us. And so it was like Brenden said, the real start of their downfall was after that. And then it was confirming to me that, they ain't got it for us this year. They don't have it.
Yeah. All right, number 3 on my list, Jake Ferguson's game-winning touchdown and taunt versus the Seahawks. My goodness, man. The trash talking there. Him and Dak both getting into Seahawks players' faces. I love that mentality. I love that attitude. That was awesome.
It's not even that. You know what that play is? It's CeeDee Lamb right after running up and pointing at Jamal Adams and laughing at him. That was God. That should have been on my list. That should have made my list. Oh, that's a great one.
All right, number 2 on my list. Dak getting the hidden turkey leg out of the Salvation Army bucket. My God, man. What an incredible celebration.
That's so cocky. It's so cocky.
Sharing it with the teammates, man. That was wonderful.
And that was Fergie again, right?
Yeah, was it? I think so. I don't know.
Maybe
or was that the team to Turpin?
Oh, Turpin. You're right. It was Turpin.
Oh, yeah, it was. I thought that play was like to Brandon Cooks or anything. I was like, oh, no, it's Cavante Turpin.
Yeah, it was Turpin.
All right, Mike, number 2 on your list.
Number 2 on my list was the loss to San Francisco. And the reason that it's so high is I remember after that game, I watched it, and I thought to myself, you know what? I think Dak hit his ceiling. I think without his mobility, and I tweeted this out, I was like, without his mobility, I just don't think he could do enough behind this offensive line, and I don't think he could be better. And then in the next game, he literally won the game using his mobility. And it was like that game snapped it, that like, I can't just sit back here. It's not going to work. And so when I go back and look at the season, me questioning the quarterback and going, damn, dude, this might be it. Because I really love Dak Prescott. He's such a good leader and such a good, like, everything you want as your franchise top guy, and to think like, yeah, I think it's it. I don't think he's going to get better than this. And I know my team won't pay enough to build around him. I'm not going to see my guy take that next step. And boy, foot in mouth.
Whoa, you're wrong.
Oh, as wrong as you could humanly possibly be.
But man, once he started using his legs again, dude, it just
that next week
he had to.
The next week when he started running, the people forget that it wasn't really after the Niners game that we started doing stuff. That Chargers game, they stunk offensively. They called a horrible. Almost every play was, "Hey Dak, run around and somehow make a play for us." And we pulled that game out with a win. And then they went into the bye week, and out of the bye they started doing all the more stuff. It was right away. Like after I was like, okay, he's still mobile. I had to flip really quick. But I had for a week. I was like, man, this sucks. This is probably the best we're gonna get of Dak.
All right, Brenden, number 2 on your list.
I couldn't decide on which one I wanted, so I said both Jake Ferguson hurdles.
Nice.
Like he's hurdled both Thanksgivings he's played for it. So that's why that's how the hype train started. Was last year's, well, I guess the year prior is Thanksgiving, and I'm like, oh, this is something. And he did it again, and then he did it against Seattle, dude. And then he started something. Hendershot effing hurdled somebody this week. Hendershot did. It's just. He's so much fun, dude. He's so athletic, and he's having a blast doing it. It's so much fun to watch.
I love
Dude, Fergie, Hendershot, and Schoonmaker could be like the nastiest tight end group.
I think Stevens will take Hendershot's job, but yeah, that's off-season talk.
But still, like even with Stevens, that still could be like the nastiest tight end room in the NFL.
Yep.
That Schoon can block, man. I don't know what he's going to be developing into a receiver. But as a second tight end, he's a blocker.
If I hear Schultz's name brought anywhere near Fergie again, I'll block somebody. Like I'm like no.
That'd be fitting for to do that, considering how many times he blocked people.
Yeah, that's true.
And how bad he was at blocking in.
All right, Brenden, number 1 on your list.
You've already talked about it, Paul, but I had to because of course. Conductor the Jake Ferguson hype train, so we have to end it with 2 bangers. Jake Ferguson making Jamal Adams his son. Like, dude, you can say any play from that, but the game-winning touchdown, him throwing Jamal Adams around. But then you see the camaraderie of the team, and also I love if my friend does something and he's beating the crap out of him, I'm gonna point and laugh. And then CeeDee Lamb legit goes to another grown man, points and laughs at him on national television and says, dude, no, your ass. And Jamal Adams still tried talking all that entire game, but no, Jake Ferguson's your dad. I'm sorry, but until proven otherwise, that's how it goes.
Yes, sir.
That should have been on my list. Yeah, that should have been on my list. That was a miss by me.
Dude, him pointing at Jamal Adams will be forever just engraved in my head.
That one belonged on my list. I messed up there. That should have been on there. My number 1 was the Bland pick 6. I love the call. The call was great, and people don't understand. Like I still remember the Music City Miracle, and at the time that I was watching it, I was like, when it happened, I was like, damn, I just watched history. Like in 20 years, they're going to be showing this on SportsCenter, and I saw it live, watched it, and that's how I feel about the Bland pick 6 because the call is so iconic. Because he kind of calls it too early. He goes, and there it is. And then he's returning. It's like, I don't know if he's going to. And then he makes it true by making a couple misses. People miss. And it was just, that was my favorite play of the entire year. It would have been my number 1. Ferg should have been number 2. That was a miss by me. But that Bland play was all time.
Absolutely. All right, number 1 for me, man. This actually just happened last night after the game. But people giving Dak his flowers on Twitter and Dak for MVP, the hashtag trending on Twitter. That was a beautiful thing to see, man. Like just people I've never really seen talk about Dak, probably people who have talked badmouth Dak, but to see that trending on Twitter, man, to see Dak finally getting the respect that he deserves, that was was a pretty cool moment, man. It really was, because it's so cool, and people think it's the cool thing to do is to bash on the Cowboys, bash on their fans, and bash on Dak. But to see that, man, that was a special moment, man. Oddly enough.
Watch out for the article coming tomorrow or Wednesday. It's going to be you guys are going to like it. It's a good one.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, guys, I enjoyed our discussion tonight as always. Brenden, before we get you out of here, remind the people they can find you on X.
At Brenden_Smith26.
Mike, where can we find you on X?
Congratulations, Michigan, on your national title. At CD Piglet, letter C, letter D Piglet.
Guys, I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter, X, at Paul_Ryan15. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
34-13, Michigan.
Did he just leave without ending the live?
Oh, yeah. How do you do that?
You have to be the one controlling it.
Well, then we just leave the studio and let him go back in and figure it out.
What